This is a fan-generated show. If you'd like to support us, please go to jamieglazoff.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our new Rumble channel. All your support is greatly appreciated.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm thrilled to announce the release of my new book, United in Hate, The Left's Romance with Tyranny, Terror, and Hamas. There's a reason why Mike Huckabee calls it nothing short of prophetic, while Professor Jason Hill says that it's worthy of becoming a classic. Order it now at Amazon.com or FrontPageMag.com. Thank you, and may God bless you. Good evening. Welcome to the Glazoff Gang. Tonight, another fantastic program with another super fantastic guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please remember we're a fan-generated program. It's a program that's still shadow banned and persecuted on multiple layers, so we need all the help we can get. The least you can do, go to YouTube and Rumble and subscribe to our channel. Press instant notifications. And please also watch the show. Leave lots of comments and share with everybody. Go to jamieglazoff.com and subscribe to our newsletter. If you're in a giving mood, there's a donate button. At Jamie Glazoff is the place to go on Facebook, X, and Instagram. But most importantly, go to liveuptofreedom.com. That is the site of Annie Cyrus. And she's on the front lines fighting for freedom throughout the world. And what an honor and pleasure it is to have her here with us this evening. And by coincidence, she's also the producer of the Glazoff Gang. Annie, what an honor to have you on the show tonight.
Honor is all mine. It's been a long time since we've been on camera both at the same time.
Fantastic. And thank you, Annie. And I don't know if, the guests, our guests, I don't know if our viewers know, but one day we'll tell the story, because many years ago, there was this wonderful camera woman for my show. And then gradually we became good friends. And all of a sudden you went from the camera to being on the screen and also producing the show, right?
Yes, it was, to be exact, it was on December 1st, 2011. So more than 14 years ago, I was blessed by Lord to have your blessing to operate one of your three cameras. I wasn't even the camera person. I was one of the three camera operators behind your show. And there was a click. There was a moment where you trusted my judgment, allowed me to be more than a camera operator. And from there, well, the rest is history.
Yeah. Well, I remember there was always a kind of facial expression you had after each show. And I could see that you weren't just a camera lady. You were very invested in what was being discussed, and you had something to say. And so when I began to inquire what was on your mind, it kind of went from there, right?
Absolutely, yes. You one thing that no one else notices, that you did notice that I'm more than a operator. You could tell that sometimes I agreed, disagreed. I had more to add to your guest opinion. Yeah. And also I had more ideas for your program, which again, a blessing. And since we're talking history and our start to today, I should also mention, because that's something I have said on my show, but I've never said it for our audience at the Glazoff Gang, is you were also the very first person in my whole life to say that I am a Christian, I just don't know it. And shortly after that, though I rejected your comment, you purchased a gift for me, gave it to me, which was the New Testament. And I still to this day have it on the bookshelf right behind me. And you were the one who, for first time in my life, told me that Jesus loves me. And today I sit here as your sister in Christ.
Praise Jesus. Well, speaking of our Lord and Savior, this spiritual war is on, and it's been happening for I don't know how many years, but since the war in heaven, and Satan was cast down here, and he's quite busy down here, and he likes to kill people and do a lot of other horrible, evil things. And I think we see that manifesting right now in your country. And so Satan works through lots of things. He works through communism. Even though we're not allowed to say it, he works through Islam. And Islam likes to butcher, it likes to engage in genocide. And a lot of people like to deny that. But it's not a surprise what's happening in Iran for me and you. And I always want to be careful here when I say it's not a surprise. It's not the first time. This is nothing new. In no way am I trying to minimize what's happening. I'm trying to amplify what's happening for our eyes, but it's nothing new in the sense that, Islam has been butchering millions of people since the beginning of time. And this is not the first time that it's butchering. At this moment, I think we're in the tens of thousands, but there's been hundreds of thousands, some even say millions of Persians exterminated by Islam in the genocide that it's perpetrating. But Annie, it's a devastating time at the moment, and just a genocide right before our eyes, even though a lot is being covered up. And I love Trump. I like Trump. On this occasion, and in terms of what's happening here, even though we don't know a lot what's happening behind the scenes, I'm disgusted. I'm disgusted by a man saying, help is coming, get out there and fight. And then the Persian people, yes, they were protesting anyway, but it gave them an incentive to get out there. And then they get slaughtered and help doesn't come. And now there's very strange, if that's a word to use, indications that there's some kind of compromise and they're negotiating. J.D. Vance is saying very strange things or not saying the most important things. Let me hand it over to you about this great betrayal.
I agree with pretty much everything you said, but let me give you a different point of view. Maybe because I'm Iranian by birth, and I have been accused of being biased or being anti-America for the comments I make. So let me give you an American point of view, not my Iranian point of view. The people of Iran, they've been fighting Islam and Islamization for a long time, but they're specifically been fighting the Islamic regime for 47 years. And for anyone who wants to know the details, I invite you to read my Substack on the history of 47 years of fight, where I go back all the way to the first uprising in Iran, surprise to many, a woman in Iran who took on the streets the moment after revolution in 79, the moment mandatory hijab was proposed, Iranian women stood up to it. They took on the streets. So it has genuinely been 47 years. You hear it on mainstream media from day one until today that Iranians just started being tired. They're complaining about economy and inflation and oppression. No, 3 months or 4 months after the 79, women were on the street marching already. So yes, as Iranians, we are used to the oppression, to the pressure, to the fight, to the torture, to the beating, to the prison cells. I am. On that Substack, I say I'm talking to you from someone who's been inside the Islamic regime's prison physically and mentally. We're used to it. We're used to the blood. But when an American president, with recently titled peace president, puts out a note saying people of Iran or patriots of Iran, keep protesting, take your institution if possible, help is on its way. This isn't about, no, this wasn't any spark. This isn't why Iranians took on the streets. This isn't why, as of right now, 57,000 Iranians were slaughtered, including 160 kids and teenagers. No, that wasn't the reason. So I'm not going to put their blood on President Trump whatsoever because that would be, well, incorrect. What it did do was by not showing up, the regime in Iran had the perfect evidence to say, you see, this is a coup d'etat set up by America. This is the American and Zionist enemy turning our people against us. From there, the accusations of those arrested went from protesting to working for the enemy. So, my fellow Americans, my complaint is not about why you didn't go rescue my people, is that why did you give the regime the actual written evidence for them to kill more Iranians and arrest more Iranians and then push their propaganda machine by saying, you see, right there, we told you people are okay with us. We told you this is all a setup by America. That is where the President of the United States of America, regardless of his name, made a huge historical mistake. And then he didn't show up. And instead of showing up, he decided to schedule a meeting in Turkey between Arakci, the foreign minister of Iran, and Witkoff and Kushner. And when Iran called and said, we don't want to meet in Turkey, we want Oman to be the host, we said, absolutely no problem. We moved the meeting from Turkey to Oman. So instead of matching the tough talk, we started bending. And as Mark Levin said on his X account yesterday, if after 5 weeks we don't have what it takes to attack Iran, we got bigger problems. And I agree with him. If we stand here and we say we have the strongest military in the world, and after 5 weeks and 2/3 of our military already moved to Middle East, we still don't have the stability to go in, then something somewhere in this formula needs to be reevaluated.
Absolutely. Let me go back for a minute at the roots of that revolution and what you mentioned when the women went into the streets. Because this red-green axis, it's very much connected to what's happening now. And just also the naivete. Well, you know, I've studied the left my whole life, so there's some layers here. There's the useful idiots, there's the wide-eyed dumb people, but then there's the malicious people who know exactly what they're doing. But look, Annie, you and I very well know that if you've, let's say, got Mamdani and Bernie Sanders and Kamala Harris, and they're going to have a revolution, and let's just involve Ilhan Omar, and let's involve Rashida Tlaib, and let's involve Hamas a little bit. Is anybody going to be that shocked when they take power and the hijab is institutionalized slightly? My point here is, you're much more of an expert on that revolution than I am. But, I was a little kid, and I remember my father was saying during that whole time, this is a huge mistake, and there's going to be a dictatorship. It'll be an Islamic theocracy, fascist, genocidal regime. And that earlier generation that thought, a lot of, and I'm not saying all those women, but there was a lot of those women that were out in the streets and suddenly they're so shocked by hijab being forced on them. You were supporting this revolution that involves Ayatollah Khomeini and all these mullahs and the Islamic ideology. What did you think was going to happen? There was a tremendous naivete on many layers of the people that threw the Shah out, right?
Yes. So let's break down what we just talked about, because the very first thing, the most important part, most Westerners are not aware of is what you just pointed out. A lot of people, well, I wouldn't say all, but majority of Westerners have this understanding or this narrative. There was an Islamic revolution in Iran in 1979. We're going to step back before the revolution. We need to look at how it has started, how it turned into the Islamic part. How it has started was from a group of students. This is going to feel like deja vu to a lot of our audience. A group of students started an uprising, more like rallies that turned into uprising, complaining about equal rights, complaining about economy, complaining about social justice, equality, and then equity of women need to get the same pay and men need to be, less masculine. I'm not making this up. The proof is right there. If you look for the right words, you'll find them. Who was that group? That group was what we refer to in America as MEK, Mujahideen Khalq. And they started not as a Muslim group. They started as a Marxist group who were following Stalin. This group grew into a certain number where now they were making some sort of noise. Then another part of Islamist student groups came and say, hey, if we work together, we're stronger. Then the new brand of MEK under Islamist Marxist group was created. And then they said, listen, we don't have enough number to win this. So we need to start doing actual attacks and take out enough people to create enough fear to be heard. Where did they start? They started by taking out American in Iran who were the symbol of imperialism. So they killed 3 American military members. They tried to assassinate another one. That one failed. They also killed 3 American citizens who were contractors working for Iran's government in Iran, and on and on. Then it became too obvious that this group is terrorist. Khomeini came along and said, listen, kids, I get what you're saying. I am this holy face who was just exiled by King Pahlavi. So you let me take this into the next level. When I win, I give all of you a position in the government. And ladies and gentlemen, in 1979, Khomeini suddenly, 3 months before the revolution was completed, goes from Iraq, where he was exiled, to France. You go back, look at the newspaper videos, you see the 2 heads of MEK on his left and right at all time, providing personal security for him. And he comes to Iran 3 months later, becomes the supreme leader. And immediately, what did he do? He disqualified every member of MEK from ever running for government. Yeah. This is exactly what you're talking about.
This was the Bolshevik, Annie, I'm so sorry to interrupt. This is the Bolshevik Revolution. The first people in line that they shot were all the liberals that supported them. And look, I'm just saying, those women, hijab is being forced on us. Let's go into the street and what did you think was this is a Marxist Islamic revolution? And my heart goes out because we know what happened to a lot of those women right after that demonstration. But go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. But that's the thing. Those people, now, when this momentum grew, again, you look at the videos of 1978 through 1979, because this revolution took about 13 months or so to complete. When you look at the videos, you see a lot of young people, college student, university, maybe late 20s, early 30s on the streets. What was the promise? Freedom of all sort, and then free stuff. Literally, the speeches by Masoud Rajavi or Khomeini was, you'll get free housing, free education, free healthcare. This country is rich. Between the minerals and the gold and the gas and the oil, you should all have free stuff. And as you know, the free stuff tend to somehow work on majority of especially younger generations. So you're correct. Yes, the very people who fall for the fact that they're going to get free stuff. I make a bad joke of saying Khomeini even told them you can keep your doctor.
Yeah, you're right. Annie, I don't know. I have very little patience for that. I just get very angry just because of not just what happened in my country, but what happened to people all throughout the world under tyranny, under communism, under Islam. But, I have quite a few Persian friends, and they share with me this narrative of being a little bit mad at their parents. I wonder if you have an experience with this, but there's a bit of anger with some of their parents, and some of the parents kind of admit and say sorry that, because we were kind of part of that brought this in and we didn't know. But I just get a little bit furious because if you know anything about history and if you educated yourself a bit, you would not have been involved in anything to do with Marxism and bringing back this Ayatollah Khomeini character. It should not have been a surprise what happened, and you should not have supported this in the first place.
That is very correct. Yes. Well, of course, I have my own personal issue with the fact that my father wasn't just one of the people who joined the revolution. He completely converted, became IRGC, and, killed people for the revolution. So that's aside. But for example, my grandmother, who always told me she wasn't part of it, but she literally said, we kept saying they're a bunch of kids, they're going to get tired of it and go home. She was in that denial that it's not going to happen. It's never going to happen. And then, of course, I have other friends who their parents either didn't do anything about it or they were part of it under the same excuse of, we thought we're going to have a better life. But my frustration is, when you look at the time, the Pahlavi dynasty was the dynasty that freed the Iranian people from the Shia regime of Qajar dynasty. It wasn't that long ago. It was literally 37 or 38 years before that 79 when Iranian people were suffering under not just mandatory hijab. Iranian women during Qajar dynasty, again, just look up Qajar dynasty of Iran. You think it's Afghanistan today. It wasn't just mandatory hijab. It was the entire trash bag and a screen in front of the eyes. In matter of 38 years, how did people forget that? I'll tell you how. Because then you had MEK members and Tude and the rest of them telling average people on the streets, at a school, in universities that, no, you see, Qajar was the radical Islam. Khomeini is the moderate Islam. The same tricks that every single society has fallen for, including America. That's where I'm upset with my people. That how could you believe that in less than 38 years, you were freed by a brave general, military general who did a coup d'etat and freed you from this Islamic dynasty? How could you fall for a new moderate version of it? Now let's go to the Marxist side of things. They knew Iranian people had to fight the Soviet Union because they refused to leave Iran after World War II. You look at that, yes, they had the information, and I agree with you. And that's why I get frustrated with my fellow Americans. I'm like, how can you fall for the same thing Iranians did, Afghans did, Iraqis did, Lebanese did, Egyptians did? How many times, how many nations are going to fall for the same propaganda until one nation is going to say, no, we know the trick, we're not going to fall for it? So, yes, many Iranians, I'm not going to say all of them, but many Iranians are to be blamed, and they are publicly today apologizing. Those who didn't do anything about it, those who did get involved with it, those who fell for the lies, they're all apologizing. But those apologies don't count. As you said it very correctly. Since Muhammad time until today, the number of Persians killed in hands of Islam is way more than 1 million. But in just last 47 years, including the numbers we have today, Islamic regime have killed over 150,000 Iranians in 47 years of power.
And Annie, where I very much respect your personal bravery, because the Islamic hand reaches beyond Iran. In terms of my country, the Soviet Union, Russia, the KGB, FSB, it's everywhere. And they can get you anywhere, and they do get you. And, I remember I was talking to this one Russian man years back, and he said that he got involved in some human rights activities in the Soviet Union. And they called him in, the authorities, and they said, "What do you think of these pictures?" And it's a picture of his daughter in the West walking in and out of her apartment and everything. And they told him it's a good idea for you to be quiet going forward. This is a vicious regime. And I have one Persian guy that I know. This is just one story. This is nothing new to you or to people. I'm just saying that he was involved in some human rights work for the Iranian people. But then he was telling me they're following me, they're listening to my phone, I'm getting threats, and like they're everywhere. They're here. And people get kidnapped and brought back to Iran. People are threatened, people are killed. But even right now, if I'm not mistaken, the mullahs said that if you talk, the people abroad, if you talk, we'll come get you over there too, right?
Yes, actually, Supreme Leader himself 10 days ago on his speech said, not only we're gonna catch all the enemies inside Iran, but we're gonna also make sure the Iranians outside of Iran who are spreading lies and propaganda and making up numbers about those who died in Iran, they will face our Islamic justice as well. Yes. But as you said, that's not something new. And here's where it gets worse, not to undermine the reach of either CCP or, KGB. But the biggest issue with the Islamic regime is they have their own people, they hire their own people, and then they have their fans who do the job for them. Let's go back to August of 2022 when a Lebanese American born stabbed Salman Rushdie in New York on a stage on behalf of a fatwa that was put out by Khomeini almost 42 years ago. That's what makes Islam more scary because they have their own people who will just on their promise of 72 versions, they will go and deliver on all the fatwas. We just concluded in New York a case against those who were hired to plot a killing, first kidnapping, then killing of Masih Alinejad, an Iranian American journalist. I disagree with her on all of her policy because she's a leftist Democrat. However, her life matters. Two Russian men were arrested and they faced court. They were convicted with receipt that they got paid by IRGC to go to New York and kill Masih Alinejad. So you have the groupies who will do the job. You have the non-Iranians who will get paid to do the job. We have what is that bike groups? Something Angel. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting their name. The big, supposedly good guys. There is confirmation from everybody that now they're working for IRGC, taking money and delivering on assassinations. So yes, and again, we go back to why would we negotiate with such a regime? What do we gain out of it?
Yeah.
What happened to the slogan? At this point, it's just a slogan because at some point it was an American value that we do not negotiate with terrorists. End of a story. Moving on. Today is just a slogan. We have been negotiating with terrorists literally since 1979.
Annie, yeah, this was maybe a year ago. I was in a particular city at the gym, and I got to know some people there, and I knew some Persians there. We were in the sauna, and we were talking about Iran, and I was being very vocal about the repressiveness of the regime. And this one Persian guy that came in, he goes, "Oh, no, 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 that's all exaggerated. It's a good regime." And I was shocked, and I started arguing, debating with him, and I was very surprised that three of the Persian friends of mine did not say a word. And then whatever, then they left. And then afterwards they said, "We don't bother with him. He works for the regime." And they were like, we deal with this in our own way, whatever, right? But they don't speak to him. But yeah, these spies are everywhere, right?
They are everywhere. Many of them, we know who they are.
Yeah.
And they were correct. You know, we know who we are. We either don't deal with them or we have our own way of dealing with them.
Yeah.
But they are everywhere.
Yeah.
So we know that they kill and kidnap people not only inside but outside of Iran. My heart is just breaking because, again, where also I'm a bit irritated, just it's sometimes people's incredulousness and shock about what's happening there. This is Islam. Hello. So they're just shooting people with machine guns on the street. They're killing the doctors, executing the doctors. They're raping and mutilating the girls and then burning their bodies. They enjoy this. The Islamic authorities and regime members and troops, they enjoy inflicting this pain, and they enjoy killing as many Iranians as possible. They're bringing in Arab Muslims to do this job, and the Arab Muslims hate the Persians. It's a genocide, right, Annie?
I am so glad you're calling it what it is. Yes, it is a genocide. It's been an ongoing genocide. Let me add something to what you just said for our audience who may not know. In Islamic Republic of Iran, since 79 until today, when a girl,
Annie, I'm so sorry. Before you go, I've been getting some, oh, don't call this a genocide. Don't. Da, 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 da. It's a genocide. If you research the meaning of genocide, even the Islamic ideology and the way it demonizes un-Islamic people. But I interrupted. Go ahead.
oh no, that's all right. It is a genocide by their own definition. One of the posts I put out to prove them with their own words was I did the number. The number reported by PLO, not me, not Fox News, not Front Page Magazine, not CNN. PLO reported that in 2025, the number of Gazans who were killed were 72,000 in one whole year. And I posted and I said, in 39 days, the number of Iranian who were killed is now over 53,000. So you tell me, if this wasn't genocide, neither was that one.
No, Annie, absolutely. This is an issue of numbers, but we get into the technicalities of what like a mass murder means, massacre means, and what genocide means.
Yeah, but you can't expect leftists to understand terminology. And
There's a targeted people. It's a targeted people that do not accept Islam. But go ahead.
yes, now talking about the Islam part in Iran since 1979 until today, when a girl is arrested, and I should be more specific, when I say a girl, when a virgin female is arrested and sentenced to execution, they cannot execute her as long as she's a virgin because, well, if they do that, she's going to go to heaven. They get their own IRGC soldiers to do a temporary marriage, rape the girl night before they hang her. They execute her in the morning, and when they give her body back to their family, they give a what do we call 1 penny in America? It's a penny. They give a penny to the father and say, this was her temporary marriage fee. Here's your money. That is what's been happening for 47 years. And we know for fact that right now, some of the prisoners who were arrested since December 27th until today, when they got their phone call to their family members, they asked for birth control pills. You tell me why.
So much evil. And Annie, I've dedicated my whole life to understanding the left and communist revolutions. It's connected to Islamic revolutions. You and I are brother and sisters in Christ. This is all a mutated carbon copy. What the devil does is, you see, Jesus gives his blood for us. But then what Islam and communism does is it tries to purify the earth through human blood. And then it'll create Sharia and communism. And this is why Mao, in much of his writings, wrote about the importance of killing as many people as possible. Okay, so we're dealing with this bloodthirsty genocidal regime. And just to hear, oh, we're negotiating now, like we're negotiating with Mao, we're negotiating with Stalin, we're negotiating with Hitler. Just imagine that there's the guards and the torturers at Auschwitz, and you are going to negotiate with these people. So now, after Trump made that statement that he's coming to liberate the Iranian people, they're getting massacred in the streets and in the torture chambers. And now Vance is saying strange things, and Kushner and these other people, they look like they're starting a romance with them, right? Or, okay, maybe not a romance, but a dance.
It is definitely a dance, the same dance we've been doing for a long time, the same dance we started again on February of 2025, a year ago. Well, let me address JD Vance first, because I have never been shy away from saying I do not trust JD Vance.
I can't keep up with. I'm having a difficult time keeping up with everything. There's the J.D. Vance, Megyn Kelly interview. Also, please include that.
Absolutely. So, Megyn Kelly decided to invite JD Vance and do a full 2 hour, 17-minute interview. I went through the torture of watching every moment, taking notes, writing down, pausing, going back and forth. And I strongly suggest anyone who has the thicker skin like mine, watch that. But there's a moment when finally Megyn Kelly gets to a question of, let's talk about Iran. And I'm paraphrasing, but this is how question is proposed. There are those, um, unlike Democrats, Republicans are disagreeing on this topic, and there's a side that says, "Why are we even talking about Iran? It's none of our business. We need to focus on America, America first." And then there are the neocons who are saying, "We got to attack Iran, and we let the protesters down. So where are we at?" Let me address Megyn Kelly right there. I Megan, I'm glad you asked the question, but did you know I'm not a neocon? But I have said we have let down the protesters. To phrase your question as if you think we have betrayed the Iranian people on the streets, you're a neocon, is a typical Megyn Kelly. So you just discredited your own credibility on proposing a proper question. Moving forward to JD Vance's 5 minute answer. The entire time he started with saying, first of all, we need to pay attention. Every president has to deal with foreign policy anyways. So I refuse to say President Trump is spending too much time on foreign policy. Number two, let's talk about this. You think when it's bad when we see people shooting our citizens in the mall or blowing things up, you're right. But imagine if we give those very crazy people nuclear weapon. You know what's going to happen if we give Iran a nuclear weapon? Next, Saudi Arabia is going to ask for it. And then next, some other crazy country is going to ask for it. Then he goes on to say, and me and President Trump, we have read the history and we are aware of history, and we're not going to let what happened in Iraq happen in Iran. This is a Cliff version. He refused to call it Islamic Jihad. He says crazy people. He refused to call it Islamic regime of Iran. He says crazy countries wanting nuclear bomb. He refused to even address the protesters Megyn Kelly brought up. He refused to even say there's an uprising, there's a revolution, and he didn't even mention that Iranian people died by hands of this regime. That is how JD Vance addresses the issue today. To him, they don't even exist. 53,000 plus people dead. Who cares? We want to stop them from building a nuclear weapon. Though it gets interesting because here's a question for you, Jamie. If we're talking about crazy governments, because apparently we don't call it Islam anymore, are you telling me Pakistan is not a crazy country who holds 170 plus nuclear weapons? We good with that? These are the double standards and the
Yeah.
hypocrisy JD Vance brought into, as he said, millions of audience of Megyn Kelly. He didn't even have the decency to say, let me start by saying our heart and prayer goes out to the families of tens of thousands of Iranian young people who were killed. That was the bare minimum decency JD Vance could have shown. No, he didn't even acknowledge him.
Does it have something to do with the fact that this individual is friends with Tucker Carlson, if I am correct?
Absolutely, it does. It has a lot to do. Well, it's not just being friends. JD Vance owes his vice presidency and potential of running in 28 as the president of the United States of America he owes it to two people: Elon Musk, Tucker Carlson. He owes his career to them.
Yeah, Tucker's on some kind of haunting Islamic odyssey.
Well, he admittedly said that one night he had experience of being attacked by Satan, where it went into his body. I think it never left his body.
Yeah. There's a very disturbing romance starting with Islam, well, escalating with Islam, with what we could maybe call the woke right, but something starting in the conservative camp and escalating with this Stockholm syndrome of Islam and worshiping Islam. It's very disturbing, but I sense that Vance is in that circle. Um, and imagine if these people are the ones that take power. If the Republicans take power after Trump, but they're led by the anti-Israel, pro-Islam forces. You know, all of this Candace, Nick Fuentes, Tucker. This is not a joke. These are strong forces within the conservative movement.
Yes, and let's not forget that I did a piece on it again on my Substack, but on February 26, 2025, the reason I keep giving date is so everybody knows I'm not talking about my experience that was 30 years ago. This is recent. February 26, 2025, there was a legislation, there was a bill, I actually have the print here, that was introduced to Congress. It's H166 if you want to look it up. Very fancied up with expressing support for Iranian people and supporting them in a free country and gaining their democratic freedoms. This was introduced by a Republican representative. I'll butcher his name, but it's Representative McClendrick. When you read the actual text of it, I'm waving this so you know I have the paper. It is a full endorsement and support of Maryam Rajavi, the leader of MEK. And as of right now, it has 229 co-sponsors. Jimmy, get ready because this might even shock you. 144 out of 229 are Republican representatives and not backbench Republicans. We're talking about some of the names, including representative from Florida. He introduced no Sharia bill for Florida in 23, but they're willing to endorse MEK, an Islamic Marxist terrorist group, is getting 144 co-sponsors of Republican active representatives in our Congress. So I share your concern.
Well, it's already here. I mean, you're writing your brilliant articles on Qatar and what it's doing here, and we've got these cities being built. Before you know it, there's gonna be, like the women will have to wear hijab. I mean, I can grow a bit of a fuzzy beard, but I'm going to be in big trouble if I have to grow the kind of beard that the Taliban want, because I don't think I'll be able to do one that they agree with. This might be coming here, and people think we're kidding.
People do, as I said, I brought up the example of my own grandmother who was in denial of it's not going to happen. If I had a dollar for every time someone has put a comment on my different platforms saying not on my watch, I would probably pay off my car right now. There is the denial part, yes, but it's not even coming. It is here. Jamie, for last 8 years in America, on our calendars, February 1st is the hijab day in America. And from day one, I said, why February 1st? Is anybody connecting the dots that February 1st, interesting enough, is the day that Khomeini's revolution was concluded? He arrived in Iran in February 1st, 1979. I don't know if this is a coincidence, but I don't believe in it. We already have Hijab Day in our calendar. We already have the month of Ramadan that is celebrated all the way to our White House, regardless of who's the president. We already have Sharia police in New York. We already have Epic City and Qatar City on the map. We already grow in number of mosques 3 times higher since Obama left office. They are here. We already have Muslim, as of right now, which my concern is midterm is going to make it worse. But as of right now, we have close to 280 Muslim Sharia obeying representatives across the country from local or state to federal. There is no, they're coming here. It's the fact of, are we going to get them out before it's too late, or are they going to conquer us?
Yeah, there's so little courage. I remember back in the day, Louis Gohmert and Michelle Bachmann were trying to make an effort against the Muslim Brotherhood in Congress and in the House of Representatives, and there's only a couple of people that would even support them. Just crazy. Some kind of Stockholm syndrome here too, where people are afraid to say Islam. And to name it for what it is. And this is my analysis in my new book that's out, United in Hate. And is it a secret what you have coming out, or?
Oh, no, go for it. It's no secret.
No, you go ahead, because everybody needs to know Annie's coming out with a masterpiece very soon. Tell us about it.
I appreciate that. So my first book, though it was expected to be my autobiography, ended up not being my autobiography. It's Lord willing, it's going to be out early March for pre-order and late March for actual release, official release. The working title as of right now is Architecture of Jihad, where I broke down the 10 different phases of jihad that has been the tool of Islam from first day of Muhammad until today, and how they use these forms of jihad to conquer every land they have conquered to this day, including how far they have conquered America.
Well, good luck with that, Annie. I've read the book and it's a masterpiece, and you're a brilliant writer. And this is going to be a big hit, and I think it's only the beginning of many more. Annie, just with a couple minutes we got left. Okay, let's try to at least think something good might happen. But hope is a dangerous thing. So the Islamic regime is in trouble, though, right?
Yes, they are at the point of no return. Iranians, we have already marked our calendars. We have marked January 8th, 2026 as the day that Islamic Republic of Iran's regime broke. We have literally announced that day as the day they broke. It was it. And I need to say this. This isn't about me not being America first. This isn't about me being Israel first. But I want the world to hear it from me, from the Iranian side of me. The reason on January 8th, 2026, people of Iran were able to break the regime's back was solely because of the strategic bravery of Israeli military during the 12 days war. I'm sorry, it had nothing to do with the B-2s or the Midnight Hammer. It had everything to do with the 12 days before that, when Israeli military showed the Iranian people how fragile this regime is and took away the fear. That's how they were able to manage what they managed. So yes, the regime is done.
But but they're done, but they've been done for, they're hanging on. Like, is there still some hope? Well, for me, hope, I don't know if you agree with me. We do want Israel and the US to hit them And is there still a chance that they'll hit them?
So let me repeat a sentence I said very early on, when I want to say it was 3 or 4 days into the new year when I said this. There is hope, real hope for Iranian people, not because of US, not because of UK, not because of Israel, not because of me and you, because historical reawakening has taken place in Iran in the last 2 years. Millions have come to Christ. For every underground church regime shut down, five more opens. Lord has finally reached my people by millions. On that note, there is light shining over Iran and Iran's future, no question about it. Now, on an earthly matter,
Annie, in terms of people coming to Christ, but there's also, and we don't recommend doing this to anybody, but apparently some mosques are being burnt down in Iran, and we don't recommend this. We don't recommend this, but I think it might explain why the left is sobbing at what's happening, because they love Islam, but the Unholy Alliance is panicking when that happens, aren't they?
they absolutely are.
And the media won't even touch why the Persian people would be unhappy with a mosque. You don't want to be Islamophobic.
No. So to this day, the narrative is still this is all because of inflation. I don't know when was the last time that due to inflation people burned down mosques, but 250 mosques confirmed, 250 mosques across Iran have been burned down to ashes, nothing left of. And the numbers are floating all over the place. However, bare minimum, I've been able to confirm that at least 1,500 Qurans have been burned, including those that were inside these mosques that were being burned down. And yes,
No wonder the left is not coming to support the Iranian Revolution, right? Because it loves Islam.
exactly. I literally said this a few days ago on my show. I said to the mainstream media, alternative media, influencers out there, everybody, if I start sending you the pictures of those killed in Iran with some sort of Gazan Muslim name, are you going to start crying for them? Because I'm pretty sure you will. But you're not going to do it unless they're martyrs of Islam, the poor oppressed Gazans by the hands of Zionists. There is nothing to say. We don't say the name of true freedom fighters, including those we have listed of the Christian Iranians who died during these 39 days. We don't name those. But yes, there's real hope. Now, on the earthly matter of things, I personally would like for United States of America to completely stay out of it. 100%. I would prefer if Israeli military would do the job because one, they know how to do it. They've proven it. If it wasn't for the forced ceasefire by US on Israel, they would have finished the job after the 12 days anyways. First of all, they are way more experienced with Iran. They have men inside Iran who know the ins and out of it. Also, when I say this, this is based on research, talking to Iranians inside Iran, outside of Iran. At the moment, Iranians, by majority, trust Bibi to help and go home, whereas they don't trust Trump administration to help and go home. The secondary concern from military help from America is they're going to try to hijack the revolution again and replace the mullahs with the worst mullahs of MEK. On that note, we prefer if US would actually not strike. However, based on what is going on with the deals with US, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Egypt, if those countries decided MEK is a better option for them in Iran than mullahs, US will strike and try to replace the mullahs with MEK.
Okay, fascinating discussion. Thank you, Annie, for coming on the show. Our prayers are with the people of Iran. Any final words before we go?
First of all, thank you for having me on. As I said, it's been a while. It's always fascinating to talk to you. Secondly, I'm gonna switch over to the producer. I want to give a shout out to all of our audience. You guys have been amazing. You've been here for 14 years. You have supported us. You have seeked the truth. And I know that because you have supported us when we brought the truth to you, regardless of parties, names, or affiliations. For that, I am grateful. All of us at Glazov Gang are grateful. Continue supporting this program, not just for my sake, but you barely find truth tellers who will not change narrative, who will not soften their tone when things get tough. JamieGlazoff.com is where you can support us, of course. And make sure to share these messages. You don't find me on other shows because other shows don't want to hear what I have to say. They lose rating or sponsors or something. So when Jamie allows me to come on and have my voice, I greatly appreciate it if you spread the message by sharing this show.
Thank you, Annie. God bless you, Annie. Thank you for everything.
Thank you, Jamie.
And thank you for watching the Glazov Gang. We'll see you soon. Good night.